1955, a bedroom, early evening, a dress laid out on the bed, and a woman standing at the mirror in nothing but the pieces underneath, and watch what happens. Because this is the part nobody shows you. Before that dress ever goes on, she is already transformed. The waist is nipped. The bust is lifted and defined. The hips curve, the stomach is smooth. The line from shoulder to hem runs clean and unbroken. She hasn't put the dress on yet, and she already looks like the photograph. That is the secret the whole world forgot. The dress never made the silhouette. What made it was already on her body before the dress touched it. A set of pieces so ordinary, she owned them by the drawerful, and so completely erased from memory that you, standing in front of your own mirror tonight, have never even seen most of them. You have a drawer of stretchy shapewear that rolls down at the waist and does half the job. She had architecture, an entire system, built in layers, each piece doing one exact job. That turned an ordinary cotton dress into that unmistakable hourglass you see in every photograph from that decade and can never quite recreate. Nobody taught you what she wore under that dress. Not because it was a secret, because the women who knew it stopped being asked, and the knowledge could not survive being replaced by one stretchy thing in a bag. So it disappeared, drawer by drawer, and the silhouette went with it. 26 of those foundation secrets. Everyone still works exactly the way it did in 1955 because a body and a dress haven't changed. Number one is not a garment at all. It's the rule that made every other piece work. And it's the one the shapewear industry most needed you to forget. Before number 26, subscribe. Because this is exactly the kind of knowledge this channel exists to bring back. Then let's get dressed. Number 26, the camisole, the quiet first layer. Against the skin first went a soft camisole, a light, smooth little top that covered the bust foundation and gave the next layer something clean to sit against. It seems like nothing. It was the difference between a finished woman and one whose foundation showed through. The camisole smoothed the line over the bra, stopped seams and edges from printing through a fine blouse, and kept the whole assembly comfortable against the skin. It was the primer coat, the thing you never see that makes everything on top of it sit right. Today, they've turned the camisole into outerwear and forgotten it ever had a job underneath. She knew its job. It started the line. Now, before I give you number 25, I have to stop and tell you something, because what's coming is the part the industry worked hardest to bury. These 26 are the pieces I could fit into one video, but the full system, every garment, every layer, how they fit together, which foundation goes under which neckline, how to build the whole silhouette from the skin out. I've gathered all of it into one guide. The foundation, the silhouette secrets they took from our grandmothers. It's not a subscription, nothing to sign up for, nothing monthly. It's the whole system in your hands once, the way it used to be passed down from a mother to a daughter at the mirror. The link is right below this video in the description. And if there's a woman in your life who has never once seen herself in a real foundation, your daughter, your sister, a friend who's given up on ever looking put together, send it to her too. She needs it more than she knows. Now let's keep dressing. Number 25, tap pants and bloomers, the base. Underneath everything, soft tap pants or bloomers for every day. Not the afterthought underwear became. This base layer did real work. It let the girdle and the slip glide smoothly over the body instead of catching. It added a layer of modesty and comfort under sheer summer dresses, and it kept everything moving as one clean piece. The women of that era dressed from the skin out, deliberately, each layer chosen to work with the next. Nothing was random and nothing was skipped. The base was soft, so the structure on top of it could do its work without a fight. Number 24, the half slip and the petticoat. Over the foundation came the half slip, a smooth skirt-shaped layer from the waist down, and, when the dress called for it, a petticoat with a little body to it. This layer did two things at once. It gave the skirt of the dress something to glide over, so the fabric fell in a clean line instead of clinging and catching on the legs and the girdle underneath. And it gave the skirt a hint of shape and swing. A dress with nothing under it hangs limp and grabs at everything. The same dress over a proper half slip moves the way it was designed to move. She never wore a skirt bare underneath. The slip was the reason the hem swung right. Number 23. The full slip, the smooth line over everything. For most dresses, the full slip was the finishing layer, a smooth sheath from bust to hem that went over the bra and girdle and pulled the whole body into one seamless line. It erased every lump, every seam, every edge of the foundation underneath, so the dress draped over one smooth surface instead of a landscape of straps and hooks and elastic. It let a thin fabric hang like an expensive one. Ask any woman why her mother's dresses looked richer than the ones she buys today, and the honest answer often isn't the dress at all, but the slip that isn't under it. Number 22. The crinoline, the skirt that stood out on its own. For the full-skirted dresses that define the decade, the ones that bell out from a tiny waist, the shape did not come from the dress. It came from the crinoline underneath, a stiff net petticoat, sometimes layers of it, that held the skirt out in that perfect circle. Without it, the fullest skirt in the world just hangs flat and sad. With it, the skirt stands away from the body, and the contrast between that wide skirt and the cinched waist above it is the whole hourglass illusion. It was engineering. The wider the skirt stood, the smaller the waist looked by comparison, a trick of the eye built entirely out of a net petticoat. She wasn't born with that impossible waist-to-skirt ratio. She built it from the inside with a crinoline nobody ever saw. Number 21, matching the foundation to the skin, the layer chosen to vanish. Here's a detail almost no one thinks about anymore. The color of what she wore underneath. Under a white or a pale summer dress, the foundation and the slip were chosen in a nude tone matched close to her own skin. Because a foundation the wrong color shows straight through a light dress and ruins the whole line. Matched to the skin, it disappeared. The dress read as clean and unbroken, with no shadow of the architecture underneath. And for darker skin, this mattered even more because nude was never one color. It was her color. And the women who knew chose their tones with care in an era that rarely made it easy. The dress stayed flawless because what was under it was invisible in the truest sense, matched so close to the skin that the eye simply couldn't find it. Number 20, padding, the curve she built where she wanted it. Here's the honest secret nobody talks about, then or now. Not every woman was born with the exact hourglass the decade prized, and she didn't have to be, because the foundation could build the curve where nature left off. A little padding in the bust for a fuller line up top. A soft pad at the hip for a woman who ran straight up and down, to give the skirt a curve to fall from. This wasn't shameful, and it wasn't a lie. It was tailoring the body the same way you'd tailor a jacket, adding shape exactly where the silhouette needed it. A dressmaker patted a shoulder to square a jacket. A woman patted a hip to round a skirt. Same craft, same logic, no apology. The point was never that every woman already had the figure. The point was that every woman could have the line because the line was built, not born. That is the most freeing idea on this whole list, and it's the one they buried deepest. Number 19. The garter belt, the piece that held it all together. Before pantyhose existed, the stockings had to be held up, and that job belonged to the garter belt, a band at the waist with straps running down to clip the stockings at the thigh. But it did more than hold up stockings. Sitting at the waist and smoothing over the upper hip, it added one more layer of clean line right where the body turns from waist to leg, and it kept the stockings taut and wrinkle-free all day. A sagging, wrinkled stocking ruins a leg line instantly. They replaced it with pantyhose sold as convenience, and convenience, again and again on this list, is exactly what cost women the silhouette. Number 18. Seam stockings, the leg line drawn straight up the back. The stockings themselves were part of the architecture. Sheer, fitted, and often with that single seam running straight up the back of the leg, and that seam was not decoration. A straight seam draws the eye up the leg in one clean vertical line, lengthening and slimming the whole leg the way a well-placed line always does. Getting that seam straight was a skill. Women checked each other's seams before walking out the door. The stocking hugged the leg, gave it a smooth finish, and with the seam ran a line from heel to hem that made the leg look longer and the whole figure taller. Bare legs were for the house. For the world, the leg got its line, drawn straight up the back. Number 17, the soft bra. The foundation had a range. Not every day was full armor, and that's a myth worth killing. For house days, for rest, for the ordinary hours, there was the soft bra, a gentler, unstructured foundation that still shaped and supported without the full boning of the going out pieces. The point isn't that these women were laced into steel from dawn to dusk. The point is that they had arranged the right foundation for the right day, and they knew which was which. The soft bra kept the everyday line easy and comfortable, and saved the structured pieces for when the silhouette had to perform. Knowing when to wear, which was its own quiet wisdom. Full architecture for the world, soft support for home, and never confusing the two. Number 16, the strapless foundation, the secret under the evening neckline. When the dress dropped the shoulders, a strapless gown, a wide evening neckline, the foundation didn't disappear. It changed. A strapless long-line bra or a bandeau built to hold and lift with no straps at all, boned to stay up on its own, so the bust stayed defined and the back stayed smooth under a bare-shouldered dress. This is the piece women miss most today, and it's why a modern strapless dress so often sits wrong. She never wore a strapless dress over nothing. She wore it over a foundation engineered specifically to vanish under it while doing all the same work. The rule was ironclad. The neckline of the dress decides the foundation underneath. Bare shoulders on top meant hidden engineering below. Number 15, the panty girdle, smoothing the hip and the seat. For a smooth line under a fitted skirt, the panty girdle took over the hip and the seat. A girdle in brief form that smoothed everything from the waist to the top of the thigh into one clean, unbroken surface. No lines, no lumps, no break where the body met the skirt. A pencil skirt or a fitted dress lives or dies on that smoothness, and the panty girdle delivered it, holding the seat and the hip in a firm, even line so the skirt skimmed instead of grabbed. This is the one piece modern shapewear actually tried to copy, and mostly the copy rolls down, digs in, and gives up by noon. Hers was cut and constructed to stay put and hold the line all day. Same idea, a fraction of the execution. Number 14, the rubber reducing girdle, firm control when the dress demanded it. When a dress needed the very smoothest, firmest line, there was the heavy-duty option, the rubber or latex reducing girdle, denser and firmer than the everyday elastic kind, that smoothed and held with real authority under the most fitted sheaths. It was the firm control foundation of its day, the piece you reached for when nothing could show, when the fabric was unforgiving and the line had to be absolute. Warm, yes, and serious, but it delivered a smoothness the lighter girdles couldn't. And here again the rule held. It was fitted to hold firmly, never to hurt. The reducing girdle was the heavy artillery of the foundation drawer, brought out when the dress left no room for anything but a perfect line. Number 13, the waist cincher, the nipped waist itself. Here it is, the piece that made the number everyone remembers. The waist cincher, the waspy, a short, firmly constructed band that wrapped the middle and drew the waist into that dramatic hourglass nip. Worn over the girdle or on its own, boned to hold its shape. It pulled the waist to its smallest natural line and held it there. So the bust above and the hips below flared out in that unmistakable silhouette. And let me be clear, because this matters. Done right, a cincher was fitted to bring the waist to its comfortable smallest, not to crush it. A good one shaped, it didn't punish. The women who wore them well weren't in pain. They were in proportion. That cinched waist in every photograph was not a diet, and it was not luck. It was a well-fitted band, drawing the middle in, building the hourglass from the center out. And the moment she took it off at night, her waist went back to itself. No harm done, no crushing, just a shape put on for the day and set down like a pair of shoes. Number 12, the bullet bra, the lifted, defined bust. The bust of that decade had its own unmistakable shape. High, lifted, defined, and it came from the bra. Specifically, the long line and the famous stitched, structured cups of the era. Maidenform's chansonette, Playtex's Cross Your Heart, bras built to lift, separate, and project the bust into a firm, defined line rather than letting it sit soft and low. The long line versions ran down toward the waist, connecting the bust foundation to the waist foundation in one continuous line. And a lifted bust up top is half of the hourglass. It gives the cinched waist below something to contrast against. She shaped the bust deliberately because a high bust makes the waist look smaller and the whole figure look longer. The bust wasn't left to chance. It was built, lifted, and pointed straight into the silhouette. If you're seeing how this all fits together now, do one thing for me. Hit the like button. It pushes this video out to more women who've spent years wondering why their clothes never hang like the old photographs. And the answer is right here. One tap does it. Then stay, because the last 11 secrets are where the whole silhouette comes together. Number 11, the full corset, the grandest foundation of them all. For the most formal occasions, and for many women of the older generation, the foundation went all the way back to its origin. The full corset, laced and thoroughly boned, shaping the entire torso from bust to hip in one commanding piece. This was the most structured foundation on the list, the ancestor of everything else on it. And when the occasion was grand enough, a wedding, a gala, the most important night of the year, nothing else built a line so complete. Laced to fit, it drew the whole torso into one continuous sculpted shape no lighter garment could match. It had grown rarer by the 1950s, giving way to the girdle and the cincher for daily life. But for the grandest silhouette, the full corset still reigned. The oldest secret, and on the biggest night, the most powerful. Number 10, the Merry Widow, the all-in-one for the nights that mattered. For the special occasions, the evening gown, the big night, there was one glorious piece that did nearly everything at once. The Merry Widow, a boned bustier corselet that lifted the bust, cinched the waist, and smoothed the torso in a single garment, with garters attached at the bottom for the stockings. Warner's made the famous one, tied to the film of the same name, and it became the foundation of choice under a formal gown. When the dress had to be perfect, no straps showing, no seams breaking the line, the whole body one flawless shape, the Merry Widow was the answer. It was the foundation at its most complete, save for the nights the silhouette had to be flawless. Number 9, the corselet, bra, and girdle in one clean line. For everyday polish without assembling 5 separate pieces, there was the corselet, the all-in-one. A single garment marrying the bra and the girdle into one continuous foundation from bust to hip. The genius of it was that there was no gap, no seam, no break in the middle where a separate bra ends and a separate girdle begins. The line ran unbroken from the bust straight down through the waist and over the hip, so the dress had one smooth, continuous surface to fall against. No riding up, no roll at the waist, no lump where 2 garments met. It built the whole hourglass, top to bottom, in a single piece, with not one break in the line. Number 8, the girdle, the core of the whole system. At the center of it all sat the girdle, the firm foundation over the waist, the stomach, and the hips that so much of the silhouette was built around. The Playtex living girdle, the form fit, the ones women owned in 2s and 3s and wore every single day. It smoothed the stomach flat, held the waist and hips in a firm, even line, and gave every other layer a solid foundation to build on. This is the piece most completely lost to time and the most important on the list after number 1, because the girdle was the canvas. Everything else refined the shape. The girdle established it. Ask a woman from that era what she put on first, and she wouldn't understand the question. The girdle wasn't a decision. It was simply part of being dressed, as ordinary as stockings and as essential as shoes. Number 7, the boning, the structure hidden inside. Here's what actually made these pieces hold their shape and do their work. The boning. Thin, flexible stays sewn into the seams of the cinchers and the corselets and the long line bras, running vertically to keep the garment from collapsing or rolling, holding its built shape against the body all day. This is precisely what modern shapewear left out to make it cheap and comfortable. And it's exactly why modern shapewear rolls down and gives up. The boning is the skeleton. It's what lets a cincher stay cinched and a strapless foundation stay up and a corselet keep its line from morning to midnight. Without structure, a foundation is just tight fabric that slides out of place. With it, the shape you put on in the morning is the shape you still have at night. The structure was the secret inside the secret, and it's the first thing the cheap version leaves out. Number 6, the fait, the ritual that made it all work. Here is the trick that separated a real silhouette from a painful mess: the fit. These pieces were fitted properly, carefully, often with the help of a woman at the shop or a mother at the mirror who knew exactly how a foundation should sit. Firm, yes. Holding, yes. But never cutting in, never bulging over the top, never leaving her breathless. A foundation that fit right disappeared under the dress and let her move, sit, dance, and breathe all evening. A foundation that fit wrong announced itself in every lump and every wince. The women who looked effortless in these garments looked that way because the garments fit, and the fitting was a skill passed hand to hand. The goal was never the tightest possible. The goal was the smallest, comfortable line she could hold all day and forget she was wearing. A foundation you notice all day is a foundation that doesn't fit. Fit was everything, and fit was learned. Number 5, matching the foundation to the dress. The single most sophisticated rule in the whole system. The foundation was chosen for the dress, not the other way around. A strapless gown got a strapless foundation. A low back got a low-backed one. A fitted sheath got the smoothing panty girdle. A full skirt got the crinoline. A plunging neckline got a foundation cut to stay hidden beneath it. She never fought her dress with the wrong underpinnings. She read the neckline, the back, the cut, and chose the foundation that would vanish beneath that exact dress while building the shape it needed. This is why a modern woman puts on a beautiful dress, and something looks off. The wrong foundation, or none, fighting the garment, she matched them. The dress and the foundation were designed together as one. Number 4. The layering order, the architecture from the skin out. Everything on this list only worked because it went on in the right order. Skin, then the base layer, then the bust and waist foundation, then the smoothing slip, then the dress. Each layer placed so the one above it had a clean surface to sit on. Get the order wrong and the whole thing lumps and catches. Get it right and the layers compound into a single flawless line. She knew it by heart. Build from the skin out, structure first, and smoothing over it, so that by the time the dress went on, it was draping over a finished sculpture. The silhouette wasn't one garment. It was a system, assembled in order, from the inside out. Number 3. Posture, the foundation you wore on the inside. The garments built the shape, but she carried it. A foundation lifts the bust and holds the waist, and a woman who then stands tall, shoulders down and back, chin level, lets that foundation do its full work. Slump and the finest foundation in the world folds into nothing. The two worked together. The garment created the line and the posture presented it. This is the piece that cost nothing and was handed down hardest. A mother straightening a daughter's shoulders at the mirror, teaching her to occupy her full height. A well-built silhouette on a woman who stands into it is unstoppable. The foundation went on the body. The posture came from within, and together they made a presence no garment alone could buy. Number 2, the smoothing, the invisible finish that was the whole point. Here is what every single piece on this list was ultimately in service of: an invisible, unbroken, perfectly smooth line. No lump, no seam, no bulge, no edge printing through the dress. The entire genius of the system was that it made the body one continuous smooth surface for the dress to fall against and then vanish completely. You were never supposed to see the foundation or even suspect it. You were supposed to see a woman who simply looked like that. The smoothing was the goal the whole architecture served. Erase every interruption, so the dress reads as flawless and the woman reads as effortless. Modern shapewear, you can see the edges of, digging in, rolling, printing lines through the fabric. Hers, you could never see it all. That was the tell of a woman who truly knew. Not that you could see her foundation working, but that you never could. Invisible was the entire point. When I started pulling this together, I expected to find that these women were simply built differently, that the hourglass in every photograph was genetics we've lost. That is not what I found. What I found was a system, an entire architecture of foundation garments layered from the skin out that built that silhouette on any body in any dress for the price of a well-stocked drawer. Not one piece on this list required a gym, a diet, or a surgeon. It required knowledge. Which piece, in which order, under which dress, handed from a mother to a daughter, and a fitter to a customer at the mirror. And here's why it was buried. In the year 2000, a woman cut the feet off a pair of pantyhose and built a billion-dollar shapewear empire out of a single stretchy garment, and the world called it an invention. It wasn't an invention. It was one piece, doing a fraction of what an entire law system used to do, sold back to women who had forgotten the system ever existed. The industry didn't improve the foundation. It replaced dozens of pieces of architecture with one stretchy thing in a bag, told you that was convenience, and let the silhouette collapse. They didn't sell you a better shape. They sold you a simpler product and let you believe your body was the reason it didn't work. Number one is where that lands hardest. Number one, the foundation made the silhouette and the knowing was handed down. This is not a garment. It is the truth underneath all 25 of the others, and it's the one they most needed you to forget. The silhouette was never the dress, and it was never the body. It was the foundation, built deliberately from the skin out before the dress ever went on. Every woman you have ever envied in a photograph from that decade was standing inside an architecture you couldn't see, and that architecture is the entire reason the dress looked the way it did, which means the silhouette was never something you had to be born with. It was something you built. And anything that can be built can be learned and relearned and built again tonight on your body in your mirror. And she did not figure it out alone. Which piece went under which neckline, how to fit a cincher so it shaped without hurting, how to straighten a seam and stand into a foundation. All of it came down to her from her own mother and her mother's mother and the woman at the corset shop and the seamstress who dressed the whole neighborhood. She stood her daughters in front of the mirror and taught them to build the line the way she'd been taught. An unbroken chain of women passing down not a garment, but a knowledge, how to make any body in any dress into that silhouette. Dorothy Dandridge had it. Lena Horne had it. Eartha Kitt, with that impossible waist, had it. And so did the woman down the street in her Sunday best, because the knowledge belonged to all of them. That is what was taken. Not the girdles. You can still find the girdles. What was taken was the line, the chain, the passing down. The industry stepped into the space between the mother and the daughter and said, "You don't need her whole complicated system. You need our one simple, stretchy thing." And the drawer emptied, and the mirror lesson stopped, and 100 years of knowing how to build a silhouette on any body vanished, one daughter at a time. That woman grew old, and somewhere in her closet, folded away, were the pieces, the girdle, the cincher, the merry widow, saved for the nights that mattered. And when her granddaughter found them, she didn't know what half of them were. She almost gave them away. Then she held up the cincher and remembered faintly her grandmother at the mirror, standing tall in a foundation you couldn't see, telling her, "The dress is nothing, baby. It's what's underneath that makes the woman." And she understood, standing there, exactly what had almost been lost. The 26 secrets in that drawer cost less across a whole life than a single year of the shapewear they'll sell you now. None required a subscription. None required a smaller body or a surgeon's hand. None required believing that the way you're built was ever the reason your clothes didn't fall right. What changed between her mirror and yours was not what a body and a dress can do together. That has not changed. What changed was who got paid when we forgot how to build the line. So go look. Find a real slip, a real long line bra, a real cincher, and put them on under a dress you thought you couldn't wear, and watch the silhouette you thought you'd never have appear in your own mirror. Pick one piece from this list and try it this week. Then come back to the comments and tell me what you saw. And tell me one more thing while you're down there. Did your mother or your grandmother wear a girdle, a slip, a foundation under her Sunday dress? Do you remember her at the mirror? Who taught you? I read every single comment. Share this with the women you love. The next video is ready. I'll see you there.